Hi quilters, today's tutorial is a quick little 16-inch pillow topper with a hidden zipper in the back that's hardly noticeable at all. Let's get started. Fabric requirements include a half a yard of fabric, ribbons and trims about 4 to 6 yards total, an 18-inch square piece of batting, one 14-inch zipper, and thread to match. You'll also need a Chaco Liner, scissors, and a ruler. Start with an 18-inch piece of fabric. Put your ruler on the fabric, matching up the 45-degree angle on the ruler with the side of the fabric. Run your Chaco Liner along the side of the ruler to mark a line, and then mark lines 2 inches away from that. I found if I doubled up on marking the line, it showed up a little bit easier. Continue to mark lines all the way across the piece of fabric. I chose to have my lines 2 inches apart all the way across. You could have them 2.5 inches or 3 inches or 1.5 inches, or even alternate sizes between the lines. Just make sure you're consistent all the way across. Now decide where you want your trims to go and cut them to length. For my pillow, I decided to put one piece down the middle and then have the pieces on either side of that mirror each other. You could alternate between just 2 different trims. You could have every line be the same trim. You could have every line be a different trim. The options are endless. Just do what you think looks great. After you've figured out which trim goes where all the way across, set the trims aside, and we're going to add a piece of batting to the back side of the square of fabric. The batting just needs to be about 1/2 inch bigger than the square all the way around, so about 19 inches square. And sometimes when I don't have a big enough piece of batting, I will piece my batting together to make a piece big enough. I will trim the edges of the batting straight, use my open toe foot. Then with matching thread to the batting, I just zigzag it together. You don't want to overlap these pieces, you just want them to get right next to each other, and the zigzag will take care of the rest. I use this method a lot to save those little pieces of batting from going into the garbage. The zigzag stitching won't be noticeable in the finished project, and since you're not overlapping those pieces, there won't be a lump either. Put the fabric on the batting. I'm going to use a little bit of 505 spray to attach my fabric to the batting so it'll stick together. Just be careful not to wipe away any of those Chaco Liner lines you made. Once the fabric is attached to the batting, flip it over to the back side and smooth it out to make sure there aren't any wrinkles in the batting. Now it's time to pin your trims in place. I went with a patriotic color theme for my pillow top, but you could make this out of any color combination that you want. I'm using pins about every 4 or 5 inches just to keep the trim in place. Once all the trims are in place, it's time to attach the trims to the pillow base. Using matching thread and your open toe foot, you're just going to sew right down the middle of the rickrack. For the pieces of trim that are wider, I'm going to sew on both sides of the trim. Make sure you remove the pins before you get to them so that you don't run over them with a sewing machine needle and break a needle. Now that all my trims are sewn onto the front side of the pillow, I'm going to work on the back side of the pillow. I cut the rest of my half-yard piece of fabric into two pieces, one that's about 8 or 9 inches and the other one's about 14 inches wide. You're going to use a 14-inch zipper and you're going to attach it to this piece with the zipper face down. I used my zipper foot to help me put this on, so it made it a little bit easier to work with the zipper. Center the zipper. You'll have a little bit of fabric on each end that the zipper won't cover, and then just using your zipper foot, sew that on. It's about a 1/4 inch seam. The edges should match. I sew as far as I can, moving the zipper as I need to, and then when I get to a certain point, I put my needle down. I'm going to move the zipper to the other side and then finish sewing. Once the zipper is sewn in all the way, finger press the fabric away from the zipper. With matching thread, top stitch along the edge of the fabric right next to the zipper. With the right sides together, sew it to the other piece of fabric. Make sure you center it on the other piece of fabric and that the zipper is face down. Instead of top stitching on this part of the zipper, we're going to create a fold that's going to help you hide the zipper on the back side of the pillow. Put the side with the top stitching closest to you. Bring the fabric from the other side over the zipper to create a fold, about 1 inch or so. Just make sure the zipper is fully covered. Pin the fold in place all the way across. Once I have it pinned, I'm going to do a quick little finger press to make it a little bit flatter while I sew it. Now that it's pinned and pressed, I'm going to flip it over to the back side and top stitch right along the edge of the zipper. Yes, we're top stitching from the back side. You're just going to sew right along the very edge of the zipper. Make sure you remove the pins as you go and move the zipper as you need to. Now it's time to do some top stitching on both edges to hide the ends of the zipper. You want to avoid hitting these metal pieces, so we're going to mark this with a pin. Put a pin just to the side of it, closest to the edge. You want to do both sides, and the other side I put a pin in the fabric just to hold it in place while I was doing this part so it didn't come apart. Using my open toe foot, I'm just going to top stitch the fold down on both sides. Start on the edge. You want to sew to the pin that you marked that spot. Pivot, sew along to the other side, pivot, and then sew back to the edge. For part of this, on both sides, you will be sewing right on top of the line you previously sewed when we sewed down the fold. If you're enjoying our video, we hope that you will hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Now before we put both of these parts together, I'm just going to give it a quick press to make it nice and flat. The zipper will hardly be noticeable once you have it sewn into the pillow, and the edges where the zipper is attached are going to have a nice finished look to them. Trim both the front of the pillow and the back of the pillow to 16.5 inches square. My Creative Grids ruler is 16.5 by 16.5. You might need to use 2 rulers to get the proper measurements. For the back of the pillow, you can either have this zipper be centered or a little off-centered. It won't make a difference. Now layer your pieces right sides together. Make sure the zipper on the backing is open at least halfway. Pin all the way around the edge. You do not have to leave an opening. We are going to be sewing all the way around. I used a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. First I sewed with a straight stitch, and then I went all the way around with a zigzag stitch. I also made sure to reinforce each of the corners. I used my open toe foot for sewing this part. That way, once I got done sewing around with a straight stitch, I could just change the stitch to the zigzag and keep on sewing. When you're done sewing the zigzag, you want to take it off the machine and clip all 4 corners to reduce bulk. Turn it right side out and make sure the corners look good. I usually try to do those first so that I can make sure and poke them out really nicely. After I know the corners look good, I'm going to give it a quick pressing, and then I will add the pillow form. All that's left is to put in the pillow. Open the zipper and add the pillow form. Make sure you try to fill in all of the corners. Close the zipper and you're done. I like using the zipper method because the back of the pillow looks as good as the front. I'm going to use the zipper back technique and make more pillows, and then I can cover the same 16-inch pillow for different seasons. Here is a bonus idea to make a flag pillow. You need 1 square of blue, 8.5 inches by 8.5 inches, 2 red strips, 2.5 inches by 8.5 inches, 2 white strips, 2.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and 2 each red and white that measure 2.5 inches by 16.5 inches. Start with an 18-inch square of batting and mark it into 4 quadrants. I just used my 8.5-inch ruler, so I get 4 equal quadrants. I used a friction pen to mark the lines so that when I press it, the lines will disappear. In the lower right quadrant, with right sides together, layer a 2.5 inch by 8.5 inch strip of red and white. Sew them down with a 1/4 inch seam using a walking foot. This is a variation of a quilt as you go technique, so you'll be sewing through all 3 layers. After every seam, make sure to finger press so you can get everything nice and flat. Keep adding 2.5 inch by 8.5 inch rectangles until they're gone. Add the 8.5 inch square of blue. Make sure you're sewing it on the correct side. Now you finger press, and then it's time to add the 16.5 inch rectangles. Make sure you're alternating the reds and the whites. Once you've added all the strips, press it carefully and then sew on the very edge all the way around. Trim it to 16.5 inches and add a pillow back like as previously shown. I love how these pillows turned out, and I can't wait to take them home and use them. We hope you'll hit that like button, share with a quilting friend, leave a comment, and most importantly, subscribe so you don't miss any of the fun things we do at the Quilted Forest. Thanks for watching, and happy quilting!